I'm Jadea Murray, and here on a positive note, we highlight the most heartwarming stories from all around our tri-state that move and inspire us. And here's a young man inspiring me. They call him Mr. Fascinate because he puts the cool in school. Let's take a look.
Recently, I had a talk with about 600 high school kids, and I think they saw, I was wearing my suit, and they're like, "Oh, this guy, he's not relatable. He's not going to relate to it." So I challenged him to a rap battle. I'm undefeated in rap battles.
That's Justin Schaefer, or as he's known in the science circle, Mr. Fascinate. This 25-year-old whiz is getting his PhD in science education, but he already has a degree in making learning fun.
And for kids these days, right, they have ESPN to show them the end game of working hard in basketball. They have MTV to show them the end game of working hard in the music industry. But what they don't have is a ESPN for STEM that shows them, what it takes, what can happen if you work hard in STEM.
And that's where Schaefer comes in, leading interactive talks all around the world to get kids interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. But he admits he wasn't always this enthused about learning.
When I was a kid, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I was interested in rapping and basketball, and I was the class clown. I had bad grades in high school, but I was secretly interested in science. It just wasn't cool for me growing up there to be interested in those kind of things.
What was the turning point for you?
One was I ended up getting into some violent activities with some young men in high school, and I remember being rushed to the hospital and there was blood leaking off my face. I ended up getting some bones broken in my right eye, and they thought that I may potentially go blind. And I remember sitting there with my eye patch on my face and thinking, do I want this lifestyle?
He knew he didn't, and that he'd have to make a change for the better. He landed his first job in the field, and while it was great, he noticed something about the industry was off.
What I didn't see was anyone from a background where I was from. I was literally the only one. And so, I ended up creating Fascinate,
a brand that's taken Schaefer all around the world to energize young minds. The key is making his lessons relevant.
What's going on, folks? It's Justin Schaefer, also known as Mr. Fascinate.
So, again, I'm all about practicing what I preach, and I can't sit here all day and talk about how cool STEM is if I don't use STEM to do all kinds of cool stuff myself. And so, teaching kids skills with technology that they usually won't be able to find in their classroom. So I think my life is just a series of experiments that I'm always trying and failing. And sometimes it works out. The ones that you see, the science, the magic school bus, well, those are the product of several failed experiments over time. And, finally, they ended up being something that people like.
Now, with the coronavirus pandemic impacting our nation, Schaefer's speaking business has taken a hit, but he's never out of ideas. He's relied on his digital work to keep his brand afloat, taking virtual speaking engagements and hosting gigs and rolling out some new content on his Hood Science series on YouTube. Well, Justin's not the only person in our tri-state using his free time for good. Check out this pair from New Jersey on a mission to help COVID patients.
And then once you have this triangle here, you're gonna want to fold it once again into a smaller triangle.
Urena and Mayuna from Ridgewood High are folding 1,000 of these tiny little origami cranes to cheer up their local hospital's patients and staff. When the pandemic began, these two knew they wanted to make a difference, but they just didn't know how, until they remembered a special craft they learned from their grandmother.
Remember that when we were little and my grandmother had cancer, we made 1,000 cranes for her as a gift so that she could feel better in the hospital. Because, having this rainbow full of paper cranes is just super nice to have when you're feeling down.
Well, it took them a month, but the sisters did make their 1,000 cranes, and they say that they're so happy to be able to share a piece of their grandmother with the world. Now, all this time indoors has motivated many of us residents in the tri-state to get in shape, but one woman in Middlesex County, New Jersey, took her workout to a whole new level. Okay, she ran 100 miles in 24 hours on her treadmill, all for an amazing cause. You've got to check this out.
100 miles on a treadmill. Sounds pretty challenging. Well, guess what? I love running 100-mile races.
Yeah, that's Rachel Belmont. She set out to finish 100 miles on a treadmill in under 24 hours. This was video from 19 hours into it. She was at mile 84 at this point. As she ran, people were pledging donations. She did all this live stream. Happy to tell you she made it 100 miles, 23 hours, 53 minutes, so just under the 24-hour mark. Rachel raising over $5,000 so that Liquid Sky, a skydiving helmet company, could make masks for healthcare workers.
Coronavirus is forcing many couples to put their weddings on hold, but we've seen quite a few pairs get creative.
It's our special delivery.
Ellen Panzer and Alan Schwartz have been in each other's lives for a while, for decades as friends.
With this ring,
I
marry you.
I marry you.
But on this New Jersey Tuesday, in the middle of May and in the middle of a global pandemic,
For better or for worse.
For richer or for poorer.
For richer or for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
Joyfully kiss the bride.
Yeah. Mazel tov.
the two became Mr. and Mrs. Schwartz, and there was never any question about it.
There's no time like the present. We know people that have gotten sick. We know people who have died. And we know we're together.
If there was a couple that embodied the phrase go with the flow, it's Ellen and Alan.
It would be people like us who do something like
We have to adjust our lives to what the new normals are going to be for a while, and then live our best lives.
Right. So that's what we're doing. And
just go along for the ride.
And from their love, we can all learn a thing or two.
I've learned the hard way to live my life and not to let things that I have no control over affect my life, and just to deal with things and move on. And this is just part of it. I mean, we have no control over what's going on right now. Live your best life regardless of that, and enjoy the moment, enjoy each other, you know, and then do the best that you can. And really just live.
Meanwhile, a Hudson Valley couple who postponed their wedding plans got an amazing surprise on what was supposed to be their big day. Nancy and Mike may have put those I do's on hold, but their DJ still wanted to celebrate. That's right, Brian Stiles showed up on their doorstep to play their wedding song outside.
I wanted them to be able to enjoy and say, no matter, even if they look back and they completely cancel their wedding or they postpone it until 2021, at least if they look back, they can say that they danced their first dance on the day they were supposed to.
You know what that sound means. It's time for a feel-good fact. While we're talking about weddings, check out this theater in Norwalk, Connecticut, helping couples tie the knot in a socially distant, safe way. The Wall Street Theater is open for business as a wedding chapel with a twist. Up to 10 people are allowed inside, and there's a giant 20-foot screen that allows virtual guests to celebrate with you.
We are a live streaming facility, so we have the ability to live stream the wedding with a projection, with a rear projection, so that people can have their relatives come online and be a part of that, either through the Microsoft programming or through Zoom.
That's the licensed judge of the peace who can serve as your wedding officiant if needed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your feel-good fact. As part of News 12's Senior Spotlight campaign, we're honoring the graduates of 2020 for all of their hard work and achievements. Well, I met a young man on his graduation day, and his optimism and positive outlook on life is something I just have to share. Meet Jack Leonard of Northport, Long Island. He's waiting patiently to hear his name. Jack is a 2020 graduate of the New York Institute of Technology's Vocational Independence Program. For the last 3 years, Jack and other adults with high-functioning autism have been learning life skills like cooking, independent travel, banking, and budgeting. He even got an internship through the program as a tour guide at the Long Island Children's Museum.
When you see an opportunity, just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we had to let him go for it. We had to let him, you know, I'm not going to say...
You got to break those barriers of comfort to achieve what it is you want to do.
Jack thanks the VIP faculty for all that he's learned and the friendships he's made.
I give him my everlasting gratitude for helping me become the person I've always dreamed of being, my best self.
Now here's a look at some of our other 2020 graduates from all around the tri-state. We've got so many great stories coming up next, but first, they were set to make their big stage debut in New York City before the pandemic hit, but some theater students in New Jersey aren't letting the shutdown keep them down. 24 students who were cast for a new show called Camp, a musical, are posting videos of their performance they would have had if their show set for New York's Theater Row in July hadn't been canceled.
It's wonderful, wonderful to be able to work with them and their energy, and to keep this dream alive.
When you live your life on a positive note, nothing can keep you down forever. We'll be back.